Well, thank you for the introduction, and thank you to you all for the invitation to come and speak this afternoon. We're all about making music, so before I say anything, I'm going to hand over to two of our terrific musicians, Brand Bayless on the viola and Catherine Everly on the violin. Brand is our principal violist and has been with the orchestra since 2001. And Catherine joined in 2011, and she sits on the very front desk as our associate concertmaster. So I'm going to hand over to them, and they'll introduce what you're going to hear.
Thank you, Paul. It is really a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the delicious lunch. It's our, we're very happy whenever Paul asks us to do something like this and engage with the community. We have just one little short piece for you today. It's a duo for violin and viola by, Johann Halvorsen, but it's based on a Passacaglia that was written by the wonderful Baroque composer Handel. And Catherine's going to tell you a little bit more.
So a Passacaglia, if any of you were at the symphony this past weekend, we played drums for the symphony. And the last movement of drums for symphony is also a Passacaglia. It's a little bit longer than what we're about to play. But basically, it's a theme based on a ground-based theme, and then we have lots of different variations that we play after that. And in this, it's a very kind of virtuosic set of variations, but we like to just have a good time with it. So hope you enjoy.
Wow, all of that. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, Catherine. Just a small example of what our wonderful 85 musicians at the Utah Symphony are capable of, music making at the very highest engaging level. So thank you again. So as you heard, you may have, I think Doug's introduction included the fact that I'm originally not from around these parts. I grew up in a small town in England called Bath. Most of my first part of my working career was either in London managing orchestras or in Liverpool. And then about 20 years ago, I got the invitation to become general manager of the San Francisco Symphony. And I was just getting married at the time. We thought it was a whole big adventure, and we'd be in the States for about 3 years and then return to the UK. Well, here we are, 20 years later. After San Francisco, we went to New York and then Seattle. So you can see there's a kind of coast-to-coast thing going on here. And then for the last 10 years, as you heard, in Baltimore. So why Utah? And I think there's a number of very compelling reasons why this was a very attractive opportunity for me, and why perhaps some of the experience that I've accumulated could be of value to the organization. Firstly, it's a community that truly values the arts, and that's not always the case everywhere. It's a key factor in the quality of life. It's an essential component in the education of our children, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what we do in the schools across the state. And it's an economic driver. And in case you haven't already discovered, we have a great orchestra here, and that was also a lure with a wonderful music director in Thierry Fisher. We also have a wonderful opera company, and as you heard, that we're about to celebrate the 40th anniversary. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Another compelling reason is something you already know, but I think outsiders don't know, and that is that Salt Lake is a growing community. It's in many ways very attractive for someone coming from a challenged city like Baltimore. There's been a lot of investment in the arts and cultural sector. You've got a wonderful new Broadway theater in the Eccles Theater, and the county takes good care of all the other facilities, including our home at Bravenel Hall and our Opera Home Capitol Theater. There's great arts, ballet, opera, theater, museums. Baltimore, just to give you an example, nobody's from Baltimore. Anybody from Baltimore here? Not anymore, right. They had a ballet company once. I think it closed down about 30 years ago. And then in the recession in 2008, their opera company folded. So they have a great symphony, but that's all they have. They have some great museums and theaters as well. But the live performing arts, this community has them all. And I think that's fabulous. And finally, you have a very generous community. Many of you in this room, and either personally or as part of your organizations, support the arts, and we're very grateful to you all for doing that. There are also some unique aspects of Utah Symphony, Utah Opera, which are compelling. We're the only major symphony opera company in the country. The merger happened in 2002, and it wasn't, if you were around then, without its bumps in the road, but it settled down, and it made a lot of business sense and artistic sense too. And even though other cities haven't done it yet, I expect that if I'm standing here in 10 years' time, there'll be at least 1 or 2 other mergers as well in other cities. We have the Deer Valley Music Festival, which Doug referenced, which started in 2004 in Park City. So it provided a beautiful summer home for the symphony and guarantee of year-round employment. One of the compelling things about musicians coming here, they'll tell you, is that we offer a 52-week contract. And as you heard, we're only one of 15 orchestras in the country that do so. So what does a president and CEO of an orchestra, an opera company do? Well, I'm responsible for the fiscal and the artistic health of the organization. And like any nonprofit, I'm hired and I report to a volunteer board of directors. And then reporting to me are the 2 artistic heads, the music director, Thierry Fisher, and the opera's artistic director, Christopher Macbeth. And I have a senior team that includes a COO, VPs of finance, development, marketing, artistic, not dissimilar to a lot of for-profit structures. The difference being that the public, as opposed to individuals or corporations, institutions, the public are our shareholders. So I'd like to take the next few minutes just to give you some insight into the organization. Some of you are regular attenders, I know, I recognize you, and maybe others will become so. So some of this, to some of you may be familiar, and to others not so familiar. And I want to leave a little bit of time at the end for some questions as well. So hopefully if I can work this thing. There we go. So just a little bit about our history. Founded in 1940, in fact, you heard we celebrated our 75th anniversary recently. This is the symphony. Maurice Abravanel really was a giant in this community. He was music director for 32 years. And really the orchestra would not be what it is today had it not been for his vision, his passion, his musicianship. We have a wonderful hall. I'm sure many of you have been inside it. It is considered one of the top halls acoustically in the country. And then leading up through the Silverstein and Lockhart music director eras to our current music director, Thierry Fischer. And on the opera side, nearly 40 now. Next season we'll celebrate our 40th anniversary. There's a picture of Leslie Peterson's father played on his horse. He founded the opera company. And we are, as you heard, we own a wonderful production studios with scenic and costume staff that not only make some of our own productions, but also we do a very brisk business for rentals. And right now, in fact, we're building a big new set for Lagoon. So when that reopens in the spring, the work that on some of their new exhibits will have been created by our carpenters, our staff in the production studios. Christopher Macbeth on the motorcycle there is our current artistic director, has been for nearly 15 years now. And then we have our Deer Valley Music Festival. And if you haven't been up there in Park City and on the low slopes of Deer Valley in the summer, it's quite beautiful. It's a gorgeous venue for listening to music, and it's really growing. I think we've tapped into a different community there. Many of the people who attend the concerts come from the Valley, but there are many others who had no exposure to the symphony opera prior to the festival. So a few statistics. The merger I already talked about is currently a $22 million budget. We have a board, which is a large board by corporate standards, but it's an average size board for an orchestra non-profit. It's a people business. We have 60 staff and plus an additional 20 part-timers, a lot of volunteers, and a lot of artists every year. So you can see the makeup there, the opera chorus, symphony chorus, the symphony musicians, and guest artists. And there's the map, which shows that we are one of those 15 year-round orchestras. Most of the others are in, as you would expect, in much larger markets: Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Chicago, etc., Los Angeles, San Francisco. So we have a lot to be proud of. And it's my job and the job of the board and everyone who supports the symphony to ensure that situation continues. So just a little bit of a breakdown of the budget. This is a crazy business model, I'll tell you. It's only 31% in earned revenues. Earned revenues is primarily ticket sales. So nearly $7 million in ticket sales, and everything else is one form of contribution to another. The investment income at the top there is what is a 5% draw from our endowment. Government grants, we're very fortunate in the state of Utah that we have very generous public support, and a lot of that comes from your votes through the ZAP tax. So we're very grateful for that, as well as considerable support from the state of Utah for our education programs. And but there's also a very significant fundraising operation, which Leslie Peterson, the Rotarian, heads up as our VP of Development, raising $9.5 million every year. So that's the Galvin Center there, and just we give well over 100 performances. These are the performances in our major venues, and then there's many others in education concerts around the state, Deer Valley, and beyond. I think people sometimes forget that we are a business, even though we're here to produce great art, and that we generate a considerable amount of expenditures and reinvestment in this community. Just a few facts and figures there on the number of concerts we do. I think just to the bottom of that slide, 185,000 tickets sold every year. This is pretty significant. 10,000 subscriptions, and 2,500 donors. On the education side, the foundation of the orchestras came out of the WPA administration, and education has been vital to the Utah Symphony from day one. So you can just see the volume of students that are served every year, 143,000 across the state. That's a mixture of kids, as they were this morning, inside Abravanel Hall, fifth graders, or the orchestra going on a tour to southern Utah or wherever. So it is a very big part of our operation. And we try to ensure that we reach every single school district in the state on a 3 to 5 year rotation, including a lot of underserved students. And our statewide reach extends beyond just education. Some of you may have heard of the Mighty 5 tour that we did to the national parks in 2014, and we're going to do a similar tour at the end of the summer. This year, going to some of the same parks like Zion, but we're also going to places that are a little more out of the way. We're getting a concert in Bluff, in south and southeast Utah, and Vernal as well, and some chamber concerts in Goblin Valley and Snow Canyon and elsewhere. It's a perfect combination of outdoor, great outdoor live music set to just the beauty of Utah's landscapes. And I love this photograph here of Utah Opera doing one of his residencies, squashed on there on the board between Kung Fu Panda and Daddy's Home. That's in Panguitch. So here are all the venues that we perform at or we own, and there are many more in addition. But an increasing part of what we're trying to do is connect with audiences who wouldn't otherwise necessarily attend our major venues. So outdoor concerts in Taylorsville, Sirachelle, and so on. And I would just say that I think you'll see more, as we can afford to do that, more performances in what I would call untraditional venues as a way to reach new audiences. Doug mentioned the Carnegie Hall tour, and that was one sort of affirmation, if you like, not only of the Utah Symphony, but of the state of Utah and the quality of the arts here. We were fortunate to get great attendance and great reviews. It was a marvelous event. And in addition to that, allied to the Mighty 5 tour, you may have seen there was a wonderful documentary that was broadcast not once, I think, but twice on PBS here locally, marrying the music with a documentary of incredible imagery of the national parks. And that was commissioned to celebrate the centennial of the National Park Service in 2016. And the video with us playing was seen in something like 230 markets across the country. So a great advertisement for Utah. And the point I made earlier that I think we can play a part in this in the Utah, and particularly the Wasatch Front, as an economic driver. So just a few highlights for those people who aren't already don't already have tickets for things. We've got a few exciting concerts coming up, including a partnership with Pink Martini, who's a great band out of Portland, Oregon. And we just announced next season we're celebrating Leonard Bernstein's 100th anniversary. We have terrific Broadway stars, Audra McDonald, who's doing a show, and our Christmas shows with Brian Stokes Mitchell, who's been here before. And we've launched a new initiative which is really caught on, and this is presenting major movies at the hall, large screen, with this orchestra, the movie soundtrack performed by the orchestra live. So they figured out in Hollywood how to digitally separate the movie from the soundtrack. And so the experience of performing and listening to the wonderful movie scores in the flesh with the movie there is amazing. We did one of the Harry Potter movies over the holidays, this last holidays, and it was a huge success. And so we decided to take a deep dive and a plunge with launching a new series, so that everybody can identify those 4 movies down there. It's Raiders of the Lost Ark with Harrison Ford, it's in September. The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is our Halloween movie. Another Harry Potter movie, the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And then in February, We're going to give the world premiere of an old classic Western, High Noon, with Gary Cooper. And that's an example of a partnership with the Museum of Fine Art. They are reopening their museum after years of renovation with an exciting exhibit called Go West, and it's American art from the Buffalo Bill Museum in Cody, Wyoming, which is coming for a 3-month stint at UMFA, and we wanted to be part of that exhibit by participating in some way artistically, and so we decided to talk to Paramount, who own High Noon. We got a great score, and they agreed to allow us to do it. So that is going to be the first time any orchestra ever has performed that score live to the movie. The opera is in the middle of its current season. We have an exciting production of Lucia de Lammermoor coming up, and an interesting project at the end of March, which is a chamber opera called The Long Walk, which is based on a book by a returning veteran from Iraq who suffered from brain trauma. He wrote a book about it, and a composer sought his permission to write an opera. So we're just to sort of deepen the impact of what is clearly a moving subject. We've been partnering with a lot of other arts organizations in Salt Lake over this next month to highlight some of the issues that are faced by veterans returning from service, and that's led to the creation of this Arts in Service to the Military Cultural Festival. In fact, there's a play going on right now by Kathleen Cahill called Harbor Gate, which is part of that festival. And then next year, we have opening our season the great opera star Renee Fleming, and a brand new production of a 21st century opera called Moby Dick, based obviously on the Herman Melville novel, which has been seen in all the major markets pretty much around the country. But the original production was too large for medium-sized opera houses like our Capitol Theatre. So we decided to take the plunge and create a brand new production, which not only will be seen by us here, but in other mid-sized markets. Pittsburgh Opera already signed on, and there'll be other co-producers. So our season, which will also feature favorites like La Boheme and so on, will both look back but also look forward as part of that anniversary. And then finally, our Deer Valley Festival, Music Festival this summer will include something for everyone. There's a couple of 60 shows, including the Beach Boys, or some of the Beach Boys anyway, with the Symphony, which is Diana Krall, Ben Folds, and I don't know if you saw the original production of Hamilton on Broadway, but this guy, Leslie Odom Jr., has the most beautiful voice I've ever heard, and he's doing a solo show with us. So finally, just a couple of slides on what does the future hold. I think a lot of people are worried about the graying of the audience and how do we connect with the next generation. And there's a number of ways that we can do that. Some of it is offering new product lines like the Films and Concert series or the Pete Martini. We're doing a Pokemon show this Saturday, music from the video games that has been created into a symphony show with video. We're also going to be extending our reach. There's a new concert hall that's being built in as part of UVU's UVU campus in Orem, a new performing arts center, and opening in 2019. And we hope to be giving a number of concerts there every season to really connect with a very rapidly growing community in Utah County. There's also a renovation of the hall at USU in Logan. And we hope to be there. We're certainly going to be there next season, and hopefully that'll become a regular. And as you can see from that map at the bottom there are, I think, both our biggest opportunity, it's also a challenge, is how to connect with the growing tech sector in Silicon Slopes, because that is where a lot of the new corporate growth is occurring, I don't need to tell you, and also where the population growth is happening. One thing we're looking at also is how to harness digital technology to deliver our content into the classrooms virtually. something that I think would expand our education imprint, expand the Deer Valley Festival, and in general develop a love of music in the next generation across our growing diverse community. So thank you for being patient, and I think we have like a minute, if that, for questions, so I'll need to be short. I'm happy to answer. Yes, sir.
Arts education in the Utah schools has had a terrible decline. Is there anything you can do as an organization to try to encourage more of that?
So the question was around arts education in schools in Utah has gone through a terrible decline. What can we do to help? Well, I think one of the things I touched on at the end there is, can we provide content over and above being there in person, which we cannot do weekly, obviously, but we're doing, as frequently as we can. If we could deliver some content over the internet, there's a way in which that could perhaps supplement what's the little that's going on there. So you raise a good point, and we're very concerned about that, because that has a direct impact on who our audiences will be in the next generation. Yes, sir.
In short, what's your biggest challenge?
Money. Always. Well, we're stable right now, but I would say that there's always more great ideas than there is money to support, and that, I don't just mean in the arts, but I mean social services. I don't need to tell you, there's a lot of pressure to support a lot of very deserving cases. So we're in competition with a whole range of things with the philanthropic dollar. Thank you very much indeed.
How art transforms a neighborhood. Appropriate. Thank you again very much. Just a quick reminder that next week we're back here at the Mary. We're going to hear from Nolan Harris, who's going to talk to us about Education First Utah. We'll see you then.